I'm back to talk more about indie music. I guess the reason I talk about indie music so much lately is because I myself am an indie artist and I want to know more about the biz, how to make money at music, or how to distribute music, or even if it's not to make money, how to get people to listen to music. I learned a lot in radio because that's pretty much the final gatekeeper when it comes to the big music scene, as far as big music sales. If something gets on the radio, especially in a lot of different markets, then it has a chance to make big money. But if it's never on the radio, then it's very tough to make massive money off music, although it can be done. Some people think of the Grateful Dead, except that they got on the radio a lot. People forget that. But if you're if you don't write hit material, then there has to be something about your band that really stands out among other bands. And it has to be something that is either unique or visually powerful, or it just happens to be the flavor of the month and you know how to keep flipping through trends. But there's certain things, if you don't have, it's just not going to happen. If you don't have a lot of exposure, whether it's radio or press or online or any kind of media, then it's going to be very tough. Now, I know people that are part of organizations that get to play regularly for organizations or just large groups of people just because of who they are and their connections, and maybe they worked for the right people and got a gig that way. Like when someone gets to play a company party, and they always get to do that, and then from there there's referrals to other company parties. Okay, that's a possibility. That's something to consider that can in fact elevate a career, but that's another one of those rarities. There are so many rarities when it comes to success stories with indie music. So I just want to point out a few quick things here. One, I notice there's a big weakness in indie music when it comes to press releases. I don't know if it's because indie artists have poor publicists, or if indie artists themselves are writing this and they don't know how, but a lot of the press releases I come across when I Google search indie music are poorly written. They don't capture imagination. They don't stand out. There's no reason for people to get sucked into the article and start reading it. And it all comes down to the headline you use about what you're doing. If it doesn't seem newsworthy, a lot of people are just going to skip it. So that's one thing to think about. Just because you're playing a festival, and say that's a regular festival, just because you're playing it doesn't mean that's news. So you have to think of a creative angle to come up with a unique headline that's eye-catching, that will stand out among a long list of headlines, because that's how it works. And it's not just fans that are reading this. In fact, I'm really not even talking about that. I'm talking about the people who make music happen, as far as expanding it. People who listen to music and they're like gatekeepers. They hear something they like and then they take it to a bigger source that has a wider reach of people. That's one of the keys to making it with indie music, is to connect with those kind of people. So that's one thing. Indie artists need to really work on better press releases and their connection with the media. The other thing is, I was talking to a music industry friend today, and I know lots of people in the music industry because when I worked in radio, they pitched me on their music. And I was, you know, somebody that a lot of music industry people talk to try to get airplay. I'm not trying to tell people to not pursue a music career, but I want you to know that a big problem that's bigger today than 20 years ago is that there are more bands than fans. Maybe not literally, but you know what I mean. That there just aren't enough fans for the number of bands out there for every band to have a huge fan base. So it's a competition is what it is. And those who think it's not are the ones who aren't going to win. The competition is your music has to stand out better than everyone else. The packaging and everything. It can't just be the next Nickelback or the next freaking Rage Against the Machine or the next whatever that's already been big. If you're a copy of something that's already popular, then you're old news. So you really have to come up with your own thing to stand out. And that's one of the most important things that any indie band can remember. Besides getting your name out there in a way that's creative and memorable. Remember that word, memorable. Be memorable. Don't blend in with the mediocre mainstream. If you blend in with the mediocre mainstream, you will be going nowhere.